Every single month I see retirees making the same three mistakes. They don't think they're mistakes. They feel reasonable. They feel responsible. Shoot, they even feel safe. But over time, these mistakes, they shrink your options, your income. Shoot, they even shrink your freedom. Folks, let's make sure you're not making any of these three mistakes, because here's the truth most people never hear. Retirement doesn't usually fall apart overnight. No, it tightens quietly, slowly, one decision at a time. And the people making these mistakes, they're smart people. They're responsible people. They've worked hard their entire lives. That's what makes this dangerous. These mistakes, they don't look like mistakes. So let's get into this conversation. Mistake number one. Folks, you retire and suddenly safety becomes the only priority in life. Too much cash, too little growth. There's no risk whatsoever. Now listen, I get it. You want stability, you want predictability, you want to be able to sleep at night. But here's where it goes wrong. A couple I worked with, Jim and Carol, they both retired, solid nest egg, but they were cautious people. So they moved almost everything they had into CDs and money markets. It felt smart. It felt responsible, obviously. It felt, safe. But 5 years later, they noticed something big. Their income hadn't grown at all. But their groceries had grown. Their utilities definitely had grown. Their medical cost, yeah, it grew also. They didn't do anything wrong. They just didn't give their money a chance to grow. And by the time they realized it, catching up was harder. This is what overprotection does. Inflation quietly eats purchasing power. Opportunities get missed, income stagnates, safety feels smart, but overprotection can actually shrink your financial future. Here's one fix. Balance safety with smart growth. Have a plan, not just fear-based positioning. Revisit your allocations at least once a year. Retirement can last 25 to 30 years, folks. You still need your money working. Mistake number two, people retire and immediately downshift everything. Fewer outings, fewer experiences, fewer risk, fewer new challenges. They say, well, we're just simplifying our lives. But I can often see everything is just shrinking. Social circles narrow, routines get smaller, days get quieter. A friend of mine, Linda, told me, when I first retired, I thought I wanted peace and quiet. So she stopped volunteering. She stopped going to her book club. She stopped meeting friends for lunch. She said she was taking a break, but people, that break lasted 2 years. And then one day she realized she hadn't made a new friend in years. She hadn't tried anything. She hadn't felt excited about anything in a long, long time. It was nothing dramatic. Her world just slowly closed in. And she finally told me, I didn't lose my purpose. I just stopped feeding it. Freedom in retirement isn't about doing nothing, folks. It's about choosing what matters. Here's a fix for that problem. Try one new activity a quarter, one new conversation a week, just one small challenge per month. Retirement should expand intentionally, not collapse by default. And mistake number three, people notice something isn't working. Expenses feel tight, energy feels lower, loneliness starts to creep in. But they wait. They say, oh, it'll pass. We'll adjust later. Maybe we'll do that next year. And guess what? Years go by. A friend of mine, Robert, told me his spending plan wasn't working. He knew his house was too big. He knew he needed more social structure. But he kept saying, well, I'll deal with that after the holidays. Then I'll deal with that after tax season. And then after summer gets here. 3 years went by. By the time he finally made changes, he said, man, I wish I'd done this sooner. The waiting was the hardest part. The mistake wasn't the problem. It was the delay in solving the problem. Retirement rewards proactive behavior. The earlier you course correct, the easier the correction. Let me give you another fix. Rebalance your investments. Downsize your life intentionally. Rebuild social structure. Create structured purpose. And folks, I know we've talked about purpose before. You need purpose even in retirement. Small adjustments now prevent major regret later on. Let me say something clearly here. Retirement, it doesn't shrink because you failed. It shrinks because no one told you what to watch out for. The three mistakes again. Number one, playing too safe. Number two, shrinking your life too early. And number three, waiting too long to adjust. None of these are dramatic. That's why they're dangerous. But they are fixable, completely fixable. And if you caught even one of these in yourself today, Folks, that's not failure. That's awareness. And awareness really gives you leverage. If this helped you see something clearly, subscribe to my channel. Punch that like button for me. Because here we focus on calm, practical strategy. So your retirement expands instead of slowly shrinking. Folks, I'd like to thank you for spending some of your day with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.